welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd with your host, Mark and Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello there.
So we are into Disney. We are still more of these sort of compilations of segments, kind of movies.
Yeah,
But this is the last of them, mostly. It depends how you classify
technically,
it.
yeah.
And it is Melody Time.
Mm,
This came out in 1948, and essentially it's seven different segments. No real joining apart from like a narrator sort of introducing them and
no, they
a
they do
pet
have the
painting,
quite nice like paintbrush
a
thing that
paintbrush
sort of like
sort of
sweeps in and
sweeps
introduces
in.
every
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
And this is kind of one of those ones where it's just musical segments with a story. There's stories in them.
Yeah,
Not quite the same as Fantasia, say, because
no,
there are some narrated stories
yeah.
going on, right? Um, some of them are very short, some of them quite long,
Mm.
which is fine. So 1948. This okay. Let's just get into the segment, shall we?
Yeah,
So there are seven in all. The first one's called "Once Upon a Winter Time."
yeah,
And it's really young lovers having a bit of a tiff in the snow.
yeah,
They're in a sort of horse-drawn carriage, two horses,
yeah,
being accompanied by various wildlife,
yeah.
birds,
Standard Disney sort of
squirrels,
fare.
rabbits. The rabbits are
Yeah,
quite important, and they go. And I think the implication is this is pre-cars or anything like that. It's that kind of. It says
yeah,
here the late 19th century. Yeah, okay. So it's two characters called Jenny and Joe who don't talk. It's just
yeah.
narrated
No,
over. So essentially,
I don't
going
think
for a
it's not
winter.
even narrated. It's just the song.
It's
It's
just
just
yeah,
the
you're
song just lasts that long.
yeah. It's quite a long song, quite a long segment, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
considering.
it's the
Um,
first of our sort of lengthy segments. There's really three of note. But yeah, the Once Upon a Winter Time is mostly kind of ice art,
Yes.
really.
And it's quite pretty and the music's
Yeah,
quite pleasant. It was released as its own short in 1954, Once Upon a Winter
yeah. I
Time,
think
which makes
I
sense.
think all of
Makes sense.
these got their own individual
Yeah,
releases,
yeah.
except maybe
Um,
the next section.
yeah.
So
Some of them are very short. So I think
yeah,
the next section and the one called Trees are very short. So I'm not sure
yeah,
about that. But the rest of them are a bit longer.
mm,
The whole film's only 75 minutes. It's not a long
yeah. It's
film.
really quick.
Yeah. So they going through the ice. The sort of wildlife's accompanying them. The two rabbits are kind of mirroring the two lovers in
Mm,
like. There's a bit of a tiff between the lovers and the female
the
rabbit and the
rabbits, yeah,
rabbit have
they
the same sort of a
replicated.
tiff, and they're kind
There's
of
a bit.
trying to ice skate, and it's funny because she's got this big sort of bustle on, with all these
Yeah,
petticoats and a big wire frame, and she's skating around, but not doing very well and falling on her bottom, really,
yeah,
showing her bloomers. And it made me laugh that the lady rabbit hid put her hand in front of the male rabbit's eyes when
yeah,
her bloomers got shown. Things like that, right?
yeah.
Um, and basically, there's a bit of a tiff, and the
Mm.
girl storms off with her chin in the air, and the lady rabbit sort of does the same.
Replicates it. Yeah,
But as they walk past a little sign that's covered in snow, the snow falls off and it says "Warning,
bit
thin
nice.
ice." And the
Yeah,
male rabbit just tries to warn them by grabbing the sign and running ahead of them and pointing at it, but they've still got their chins up and walking away through the
mm.
towards the thinner and thinner ice. So he doesn't know what to do, but he
Which
puts it back in the
eventually
ice, which
breaks.
causes it to
Yeah,
break, right? Causes it to break.
yeah.
Um, and then there's a sort of bit of tension where, well, quite a bit of tension.
Well, they do a bit
The
of
ice
like
breaks up.
ice skating skills to save them,
Oh yeah,
and
they're doing
the
heart.
animals
There's a
try and
big
help out.
heart motif. Hearts keep appearing throughout this one.
Yeah,
Um, like for example, the skating on unsteady feet, but the shapes they make with the unsteady feet is hearts, right? A set of
mm.
hearts, things like that. But the girl finally accidentally gets on an ice floe, a broken off ice floe, flowing down a river, which
Mm.
is towards rapids, which is a massive drop. So it's all very
Yeah,
the bloke doesn't know what to do, so the horses kind of take charge, and the squirrels and the birds, and they kind
mm.
of rope the front of the ice floe just as it's going over to stop it going over and manage to pull it back.
Mm.
with and the guy looks like a hero and everything's happy.
Yeah, they make up. They sort of go into the over the horizon. That's kind of it. It's a pleasant song, well animated,
Yeah.
not too memorable.
Yeah,
Like,
no, no.
yeah,
The one I think I've always said the ones that tend to be memorable are. I mean, some of them are just striking anyway, but where there's an
mm,
actual narrative, like Mickey and the
yeah,
Beanstalk, and a
yeah.
narrative, things like that. The next one is really short.
No, yeah.
Bumble
This is
Boogie. It's basically the Flight of the
it.
Bumblebee piece of music set to Boogie Woogie. So there's a
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, it was
Very
okay. It
short.
was a Fantasia sort of light segment,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was something that they could have just. This and trees are basically just
yeah.
kind of visualizers for the songs as
Yes,
opposed to actual stories.
narratives. But a
So
bee it involves a bee who kind of gets involved. Is
it's
trying
trying
to
to
go
avoid
to
all the
flowers,
musically themed flowers.
but
So
they start evolving into musical instruments like keyboard,
mm,
particularly keyboards. Keyboards is a big one in this, which is a flighted bumblebee.
mm,
And it's also boogie woogie, which is very piano based. And there's stuff like the flowers. Um, the petals look a bit like the keys of a piano, and then they kind of get thrown up in the air, and then they turn into butterflies, which have a coloration a bit like piano keys, not very, but a bit. And meanwhile, there's bees
mm.
getting hassled by being chased by like hordes of butterflies, getting stuck in like a big bird cage constructed from I don't know, piano key
Strings,
strings
like
and
yeah,
things like that. It's stuff like that. It's only about 3 minutes, the whole thing.
yeah,
Um, Apparently, it was considered to be put in Fantasia, so maybe they had this on the shelf and was ready to go into something.
yeah.
But yes, but it was kind of fun, but didn't really stick. Again, um, the next segment, I mean, we are going to really go through this quite fast, aren't we?
Mm.
This next segment is The Legend of Johnny Appleseed, a character I was not familiar with. So this told
I mean,
me
I've
something I
heard of
didn't.
him as a guy who scattered apple seeds as he traveled like west with the.
You've heard more than me then, because I
Yeah,
knew the name and
that's
that's
the
it.
extent of what I
Yeah.
knew.
Which is
Turns out there's
really
more
what.
like God to it.
Yeah,
So,
there's it's also spread Christianity apparently.
mm,
In the real story. However, in this, it's kind of it's basically a slightly weedy little guy who sees all these
yeah,
settlers singing a song as they're marching off west, and he kind of fantasizes about joining them. But then he wakes up with his family, and he's still back on his orchard, very nice orchard with his
mm,
apple seeds. But then his guardian angel was like this old codger, old pioneer type, right? Wearing a
yeah,
Davy Crockett hat, sort of advising him he can do this. And then he
yeah,
just starts wandering around and scattering apple seeds. And we see him get older and older and older. Um,
yeah,
this is quite a long segment, and it was all right, but
yeah. It didn't
uh,
need to be this long at
I
all.
didn't need. He just gets out until he's got a big old beard, white beard, and he's just scattering apple, and he keeps
Yeah,
going about how much work he's got left to do, and all
yeah.
this. And then
Eventually, he dies of old age, and then we get a weird, like almost just so segment, like a just so story. So it's like, and then Johnny went up to heaven, and he's still scattering apple seeds, and
it's in
the apple
heaven.
blossom is
It's the
what makes the
clouds
clouds, and it's
and
like,
all this. Yeah, yeah.
huh?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, not a character or a sort of a legend of American legend
Folklore,
I
yeah.
really know about
Mm,
personally, but yeah, it was okay. It's well animated. I quite liked it. It looked quite nice. The actual
yeah.
beginning scene with the settlers going off was kind of cool with their song
I
about
watched
going
this with some
west.
friends, and we did make a lot of fun of poor Johnny Appleseed's hairline
Oh
throughout this
yeah, it kept
film.
changing.
It's
Well, it wasn't
no
great to begin with,
when they
right?
yeah when they show him at the start when he's like a kid, basically his hairline is already like back to the level of his ears.
It's one hell of a forehead. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
and then it
Yeah.
shows him later, and he's basically bald, but has a headphone dent in his head, like a sort of a cross. Don't know
Oh,
how
okay.
he got
I didn't
that.
really notice that. Didn't really notice
It's
that.
a bit
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
It's
but quite enjoy it, quite okay. Not the one I'm gonna
yeah,
remember.
no,
In fact, none of these I'm gonna particularly
no,
remember. So
these aren't really particularly good.
so
Yeah,
far. The next one I think I will remember. Little Toot, Little Toot. It's basically the little engine who could, or a bit of a
yeah,
reprice of that Pedro segment that was in Saludos Amigos. It's kind of
mm,
like that, but it's a tugboat, right? It's
yeah.
a littlest tugboat. Essentially, his
He
father,
gets
Big Toot, is pulling all these big ships into this harbour in New York, and he keeps pissing about, and
yeah,
eventually causes one of the big boats. He tries to help his pa by pushing at the rudder, which then turns the rudder, and the whole ship starts spinning around the pole, and it ends up
yeah.
in the city. So
Okay, that's a
I like this
catastrophic
for a few
failure.
reasons. I really like the Andrews Sisters song that goes with it. They did a great
Yeah,
job here. It really suited them. And essentially, he gets imprisoned. It is a bit grim
yeah.
because, like, the
They imprison
police
him and then they drag him out to sea.
to the 12-mile limit
Yeah,
and leave him stranded. Meanwhile, Big Two, his father, is left dragging garbage ships.
mm,
Right, been demoted to do garbage ships. Also looking like he's covered in garbage. There's a lot of seagulls flying above him, which makes me very suspicious of it was
yeah.
just getting pooped on or something
Well,
like that.
yeah, but yeah, and
Um,
eventually, while out at sea, Little Toot finds a bigger ship in distress.
Yeah, with
So,
I like this because like everything was shunning him.
yeah,
The boys, even the boy, or what the
like the
Americans
Sea
call them,
Boys.
buoys, don't they?
Yeah,
Buoys. But they were going bad boy, as he was going
yeah,
past them. Even the lighthouse beam cutting across the sky. As soon as it went to him, the arc, the light kind of arced around him in a loop, rather than even going onto him. It was
yeah,
that shunned, right? But in the end, there's a distress flare sent up by a ship on the rocks right by the lighthouse. Little Toot's trying to make his way there. All the other tugs, including his dad, are trying to get there because they see
mm,
the SOS flare. But a storm is like lashing him back. But
yeah,
Little Toot just even though he gets submerged at one point, I mean,
yeah,
a seagull starts crying about it at one point. But he manages to come out again and manages to pull the ship home. He's the big hero, right? So
yeah,
it's a little engine that could story, right? Little
yeah.
Toot. Yeah, I quite like this. I thought
It was okay.
it was animated quite well. I thought it was kind of
Yeah,
fun and stuff like that.
it weirdly reminded me of. Do you remember that like Thomas the Tank knockoff that was about boats? It was like a Tuggington or Tugs,
Yeah, I
something
can't
like
remember what it
that.
was
It's
called, but
like
I know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah. It was
weird.
very similar, very similar.
Yeah,
As what it was quite similar to Pedro, wasn't it? The plane,
yeah,
right? Um, so yeah, and then I just like the vocals in this one, and it's the one
yeah,
I'm probably gonna remember the most, apart from the last one. But we'll come back to the
yeah.
last one.
We'll come
Um,
back to
um, Next one was
trees.
it
It's
was
not
a
great.
music video, right? It was a music
Yeah,
video. Well, it was to the poem. It was the poem "Trees." You know, I
yeah,
don't think I'll ever see a poem as lovely as a tree. That one set to
yeah,
music and sung
yeah,
with visuals
yeah. But
going
the
through the
visuals were every
changing
single
seasons.
time it was a tree and it zoomed into something on the tree, be that running water or like a knot on the tree, and that whatever they zoomed in on, that would turn into a different tree. Rinse and repeat
And then for a
every
bit of
single
drama,
time.
they put in a storm. There was a
Yeah.
storm.
They zoom in and there's a rainflow on the tree, and that turns into a tree, and then they zoom in further, and yeah, every single
Yeah,
time.
apparently this used never before done animation technique, which I'm not sure I can even explain, and I didn't really notice.
Frosted cells and rendering the
Pastel
pastel images,
rooms into the cell. Didn't really
like pastel
notice it
coloring.
different
Yeah,
from
it
anything
just kind
else.
of looked the same as the rest of the animation.
Yeah, and it
So
wasn't. It was probably the weakest segment, I'd say, actually, out
yeah,
of these.
because nothing
Nothing,
happened.
nothing happening.
It wasn't interesting
We didn't
visually, and
even
it
have a
wasn't too
B. We
interesting.
didn't have a B
Yeah,
being nestled, right? And the music was a bit dreary.
yeah,
It was a bit slow.
yeah.
Next segment was much more fun.
Yeah, I think this was my favorite, like actual favorite
Fair enough.
segment here
Fair enough.
with
Well,
Donald Duck and what it looked more like his boyfriend in this one, Jose
yeah,
Karaoke.
karaoke and the mad bird, Arakuan bird,
Yeah,
from Saludos Amigos was the three of
yeah,
them. I know some of them appeared in the earlier
But
one as
that's
well.
not one of the amigos. The Arawan bird isn't the third
No, no,
amigo.
the
It's
parrot, isn't
weird.
it?
They
Not
yeah
parrot. Oh, what's the Mexican one? Isn't in
yeah
it, right? Um, so this is all about the samba. We get a lady playing the piano, animated piano, but she's live action.
yeah
And a live action lady playing the
yeah.
piano and dancing
As
about.
it's basically Donald Duck and Jose Karaoke
And
dancing all
the
around it,
birds
and the birds,
are right
the other birds,
dick.
causing problems like putting
Yeah,
dynamite in the
put
thing and setting
dynamite
fire
and
to it.
then like says, "Oh, there's dynamite there." After putting it there, it's all
Yeah,
that. And there's like explosions and pianos reforming
yeah.
themselves in animated form.
And
And
he's like knocking her knee, so she kicks out and then kicks one of the two other birds,
yeah,
that sort of thing.
again, I quite like the music. It
Mm.
had a couple of different samba songs in it. The second one
Yeah,
was more lively, and I liked it. Yeah. And
yeah,
Walt Disney loved a bit of South American music, didn't he? He really did.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, but this was fun. It's all right. Unfortunately,
I
Donald
think
Duck
it was
did not
pro.
talk.
No,
None of
no,
them talked, right?
nah.
It was just the song.
Yeah,
Which was you always like to be Donald Duck
yeah,
talking. But yeah, so yeah, it was a decent segment, one of the better ones, and then the final one, which I think was the longest one. Again,
yeah,
a folkloric character from the US. I knew the name, didn't know anything
yeah,
about this. Really interesting though.
yeah.
This segment featured Roy Rogers and Trigger, which I don't think I've ever seen Roy Rogers and Trigger in anything.
No, I
And the
know the
horse was like
names.
responding, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because it starts with like a load of satellite
yeah.
travelers
It's
singing, coordinated. Basically, they were a band, right?
yeah.
Singing with Roy Rogers singing and
And
about
the way it's framed is so weird because it's just Roy Rogers, this like band of all grown men, and then
two little kids.
two kids.
A bit
Uh,
like that
it's
segment
like
with the ventriloquist,
I
right?
don't know why he kept doing this to these vignette films where the last section we've got to have an intro and it's got to be deeply uncomfortable uh
I
every
didn't
single
find it that
time.
uncomfortable, to be honest. Yeah, it was fine. I like that. Basically, they were saying, "What's that howling?" And he goes, "It's the coyote. Why does that wolf howling?" And the little boy's like, "That's a coyote." Because why is
Yeah.
it howling at the moon? He goes, it's because of Pecos Bill. And like the kids haven't heard of Pecos Bill. And like
Mm.
the band are like mortified. You've never
Yes,
heard of Pecos
you're
Bill?
out on the western. You haven't heard of Pecos Bill. Oh, that's a right shame. So,
Yeah. And it turns out Pecos Bill is effectively like a Texan Mowgli or Tarzan,
yes,
right?
yeah,
In effect, raised with the coyotes
Ray's yeah, and basically
as a
committed
baby.
himself to like being better than everything.
Yeah, not being frightened of man
Yeah.
nor beast is quite
The
important with him.
demonstrations they give is faster than an antelope, better at jumping than a rabbit, and
Rabbit
then the
can out
suspicious
hiss a
out hissing a snake. It's like
yeah.
of all things a snake might be known for that you want to outperform them on. Hissing's probably not high
So,
on the list, but
yeah,
yeah, sure. Let's
but
go,
this
Pecos
guy's
Bill.
super tough. For example, he's working on a sport where he headbutts buffalo, right?
Yes,
And things like that.
that's insane.
Also, he managed
He's
to tame the maddest horse in the West, called
yeah.
the Widowmaker. Is his name in
Yeah,
this
it's
one?
just Widowmaker. But he's
Widowmaker.
also the seems to be the subject of a bunch of Just So stories where he's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, so one time he was relaxing on a cloud. He can do that apparently, but yeah, and he just started shooting out the stars.
Yeah.
And then,
Until
but he
one was
still
left.
one left, and he quite liked that one, and that's why Texas is the Lone Star State.
Yeah, and
It's
there's a
like, oh, he was
story.
out in the desert and he got thirsty and he dug a river, and that's where the Rio
Dug the
Grande
Rio
comes from.
Grande.
It's like,
And then
what?
another time, Texas was bone dry. So he rode over to California and wrote to a rain cloud, and
Mm,
dragged it over. And there's all these various stories, right?
yeah,
Which they integrate into the song quite well. I quite liked it. I like the song even more when someone started yodeling. That was great. I love a
yeah.
bit of yodeling, so that worked for me. Anyway, there's a good section where this guy is just riding around, shooting his guns off, terrorizing towns.
Yeah,
It appears.
that seems to be the general gist of the story is what Pecos Bill went and just shot something and that's why we have a thing. So that's the loop of all the like folkloric myths of him.
Yeah,
So,
my favourite element of all this was the bit where he encounters a tornado and he just lassos it like it's a
yeah,
cow and then jumps on it like it's a bucking bronco and then lights a cigarette with the lightning as well.
yeah,
What a boss.
yeah,
And basically converts it into a mild breeze, right?
yeah.
Um, so
But yeah,
that was
Pecos Bill is he's done everything and he's
a
the best at
badass. He's a
everything.
badass. Uh,
But then he spots a beautiful woman who's riding on a fish. They never explain the fish at all.
no, no, no.
She's riding
And
a
I
giant
never
like
explain her
catfish.
name. Her name is, I don't understand the name.
Slewfoot
Slewfoot
stew.
Sue.
Sue. Yeah.
What does Slewfoot mean? I don't know what that means. But she looks a bit like, in that cartoon with the wolf in the nightclub,
Yeah, she looks a bit like
the
bit
woman,
like a Red Hot Riding Hood.
Red Hot Riding Hood,
So
right? She looks like her. So old Bill is really taken.
okay, so apparently it
However,
just means your feet point outwards when you
Slewfoot.
stand.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, they were in England, in Britain, we call that 10 to 2's feet, right? 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's in love, but his
Yeah.
horse is not
Source
having
hates
it.
her.
Not
Like,
having it. And I have to say, I did laugh at the bit where they basically had about 10 hands holding ropes to hold the horse still.
yeah.
It
And he's
was really
still
mad.
like
So
lashing and
Sue,
whipping.
Sue could try and
She wanted to
break it.
ride him to the wedding.
Yeah, and Widowmaker's really, really not
Yeah.
happy about this.
But they
Uh,
also they put specific attention on Sue got herself a
Bustle,
particular bustle, a very
bustle. Well,
strong
it's
one.
important to the plot, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
important to the...
and there's a lot of like backside focusing on this one.
Yeah,
Like she's a lot of like slapping her own ass sort of thing
yeah.
in a children's film. Yeah, but eventually, like she goes
This
outside.
comes back to the slapping in the last one with the bears, isn't it?
Yeah, the bears thing was that's still bizarre to me.
Again, was
Like
old Walt a bit, slap happy or something? I don't know.
probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say
Okay.
for certain. But
So,
yeah,
a
so
se-
she gets on Widowmaker. He
yeah.
immediately goes ballistic and bucks her.
Well, no, no. She stays on for quite some. In fact, she even does her makeup at one point while being
Yeah,
bucked by Widowmaker, showing what a boss she is. But
yeah,
eventually, he manages to buck her really high into the air. And
yeah,
what happens is every time she goes in the air and lands on her bustle, she goes even higher. So she's
yeah.
basically going higher and higher into the sky. But then old Pecos Bill, he's not bothered. He's not bothered. He
Like, no,
comes
he comes in with a lasso.
lasso, and he's like, yeah, he never misses a lasso ever, ever.
Mm,
So he's kind of like, yeah, don't worry, I'll do this. Throws the lasso at her, misses her, and what we see it, and people are saying, "Well, we don't know how he missed, but when it focuses back, you see the hoof of Widowmaker on the rope, looking
yeah,
like I'm innocent, whistling or something.
yeah.
Um, so she keeps bouncing and bouncing until she
Eventually, she
bounces to the
lands on the
moon.
moon.
Yeah. So Bill decides he's heartbroken,
Bill
goes
just
back.
returns to being a coyote.
He goes back to the coyotes, and every time it's a full moon, he howls at the moon, and all the coyotes join in sympathy. That's
Yeah,
the story, and it is a Just So story, pretty much.
yeah.
Why the coyotes howl at the moon, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah, I like this one.
Yeah.
It was
It
goofy.
was.
There was some. Ooh, I don't know about that. There's a story, for example, how the coloured mountains got
Yeah.
coloured, and it's like, nah,
It's he chased a bunch of Native Americans,
Americans
and
who used a
in
lot
their
of war paint.
frantic
Yeah, the
run,
paint.
they spilled all their war paint, and that's why
Yeah,
the
yeah,
valley's called that.
yeah. It's kind of a cute one. I have to say, of these, I like Little Two, Blame It on the Samba, and Pecos Bill the best out
Yeah,
of the three.
I
Out of the
only
seven.
really liked Blame It on the Samba, and that's because that
Oh,
was like
okay, fair
upbeat
enough.
and like the Amigos were in it. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. Not the best of these ones,
No,
I
I
don't
think I'm
think.
getting a bit of the like
Being
vignette
punchy on
fatigue.
these. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we've seen too many now, I think.
yeah.
That's the problem. However, this is
Thankfully,
the last one.
yeah.
So,
Well, technically we've got one more, but it's only a two story one.
Oh, yeah, no, but
We've
those are
got
way better
yeah,
stories, right?
it's
There
far
must
higher quality. I think the animators were properly back in seat for this one.
Yeah,
So
we've got Toe to Toe Hold and Sleepy Hollow.
yeah, The Adventures of
Legends.
Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yeah, that's a good little film.
Mm,
I like both of those, and they're quite memorable. So looking forward to rewatching. It's been a long time since I've watched them. Um, that
mm,
was a staple of childhood. Watching that whole sequence from Sleepy Hollow, where he has to
yeah,
deal with the sleep. They showed that clip quite a lot on children's telly in the
yeah,
70s, so it's very familiar to me, that whole sequence where Ichabod's
mm,
just trying to get away. Um, Not
yeah,
necessarily the beginning, the real end,
yeah,
but that whole sequence with it kind of makes me want to watch Sleepy Hollow, Johnny Depp's Sleepy Hollow again, actually.
yeah, maybe,
The whole thing.
yeah.
But yeah, it was okay, this one, I'd say.
Mm.
Okay. Um, any other comments about it?
No, not really. I
No.
think we kind of covered everything.
Yeah.
And as I say, I'm kind of getting a bit tired of these really short segments that are just for visualization sake of a song.
Yeah, yeah, it
That
just
makes it
went
sound
on
bad,
and
but it's
on.
just
We'll
it's
revisit this one more time with at least one more time, Fantasia
yeah,
2000, right? But that's a different kettle of fish. Fantasia's a
yeah,
different kettle of fish to. In fact, it starts all this in
yeah,
many ways, doesn't it? But it's a standout. It's a standout. So
yeah.
okay. How would you rate this one?
I'd rate this a 5 or a 6. Like
I think a
it's
6. Yeah, 6 is
yeah,
fine. It's never going to be one I'm going to think. Oh, you know what? I
yeah.
fancy
Let's
watching
just pop
that
in melody time.
because they all basically after except Fantasia, they all kind of merge. I say that Saludos
Yeah,
Amigos
and
is pretty solid.
Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros
Two
kind of stand
stand
out.
out more. Yes,
But
they
these
do.
other three have been kind of dire.
Yeah, the bear thing and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Quite basically, I found this kind of educational because I didn't know anything about Pecos Bill or
Yeah.
Johnny Appleseed. So in that respect, I've never seen this one before.
Mm.
So this was all new to me, and I quite enjoyed it
Yeah.
from that point of view. But in terms of, I'm glad it was only 75 minutes. Let's put it that way. I'm not sure I could
Yeah.
have stood another couple more
No.
segments.
No.
I'd have to have watched it in at least two parts if I'd have done that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but the singing, the music, and the animation was
Yeah,
all
the
great,
actual
all fine,
yeah.
all to good, good to great. But it's like, yeah, a bit tiresome after all of these very similar elements. I'm surprised. I would have thought the public would have got a bit sick of all this by now, to be
Mm.
honest. But maybe back then there wasn't that much color stuff being shown, so maybe it was just a
Yeah.
nice change. It's a nice change.
Yeah.
Um, Not one that's much talked about, is it? Melody Time in Disney history.
No. I
None,
can kind
none
of
of
see
them really
why.
are.
So
The three Caballeros sometimes pop up in other stuff.
yeah.
Weren't they in
I
Roger
think
Rabbit,
most
for example? Were
yeah, they
they?
were in Roger Rabbit. I think they've been in the recent DuckTales
Okay,
series, which is all
it's
about
just a
like
good
gone.
place for
Yeah.
them. Good place for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a little disappointed we didn't get a single line of dialogue from Donald Duck though. That was
Mm.
all karaoke, Jose for
Yeah.
karaoke.
Yeah.
But that was a little bit of a disappointment. But yeah, otherwise
Yeah.
it was okay. It was
Yeah,
okay.
and hopefully we can get some more from them later on. I think they do have like a film that's like The Return of the Caballeros or something like that.
Okay, well by then we'll probably be thirsty for
Yeah,
it again. But we're just we're satiated on this sort of stuff now,
yeah,
aren't we? It's just no more, please, no more.
yeah.
All right. Okay, let's wind up there. So bye from me.
Bye.